Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Hallmarkies podcast. And we are really excited today because we are here to talk deep dive about Bridgerton season 3, part 1, the first slate of episodes that they released. And it's going to be fun. This might be a little more mature of a podcast. So if you not your jam, there's other stuff that you can listen to this week on Hallmarkies podcast. But I am film critic Grace Wagner, and Anne is here.
Hi, everyone.
And Natasha is here.
Hello.
Yeah. Happy Bridgerton.
Yay.
It was so hard. 2 years. It just about killed me.
It was a long time. It was very long.
And I have noticed that I feel like the response has been more divisive than I expected. And I think that's partly because it's the 2 years. Like I just think that there was built up an expectation that was impossible. That even if it was, and it's not a perfect season, we'll talk about some of the problems. But I just think that it built up an expectation that could never have been met.
Yeah, I think that's true.
For 2 years.
It's just so long. Like, it would have been a lot. It would have been even better if it came out in December, which is what
which was the original plan.
And it's like, then it was like this, and then it's 2 parts, and it's just like, do we all go summer after thinking it was December? So
yeah, it's wild, but but we're gonna dive. So
everyone thought it was gonna come out last December.
Yeah, it was but then they got delayed because of the strike.
Oh yeah. Okay, yeah.
So anyway, it's interesting. But we're gonna dive deep into each of these 4 episodes. We're gonna talk about them, what we thought, but overall, the 4 episodes. Natasha, what was your overall thoughts about these 4?
I think I like the Colin stuff. I think I like their romance. I think the central romantic arc is decent. I think it's good. It's not my favorite, but I think it's well done. I don't like, I think, a lot of the subplots, I think, of season 3, because I think when Colin and Penelope were not on screen, I didn't really care a lot about what was going on. And I think they didn't do a really good job, I think, of making all these, I think, subplots, I think, feel more rich and substantial, so that we felt like, we are watching something. I don't know. It feels like padding. It feels like padding sometimes. Yeah.
Yeah. If people listen to, we did, my friend Monda and we did a shorter review for that aired on Thursday, and I said in there that that the Poland stuff, it totally sizzles. I loved it, and the rest of it felt overstuffed. And I mean, I agree. I agree with everything you're saying. I don't know. What do you think, Anne, about it as a whole?
I mean, I think I agree. I think that I mostly cared about the pollen scenes. And yeah, there was like the stuff with, like, especially, this maybe sounds bad, like especially with like I don't even know his name. I saw Rachel had it here. Modric.
Oh yeah, Mondrick.
I was like, I really don't care. I'm sorry. Like, maybe I'm just a horrible person.
No, but I completely agree.
Stuff, and I just felt like they could have cut their stuff out, and that maybe would have made a little bit more room for some of the other stuff. Because it did just feel like there was so much just trying to be packed around, and I was just like, this is just too much.
They were a total waste. I was just like, what? I mean, I get that they're trying to show that you can't have a job. They're like trying to be the Matthew Crowleys of Bridgerton, but like we already knew that. We already got that going in, and we just didn't need scene after scene with them. And I think that for sure, in my opinion, that Kate and Anthony got the biggest of the short shift. Their whole role in this season is just are we going to have a baby or not? That's it. That's the only story they gave them.
Yeah. I feel so upset.
And then it's like
the lack of Kate and Anthony.
Yeah. It's like, are we going to have a baby or not? And then are we going to tell them?
So my question was, or because I've only seen the first 4 episodes.
Yeah.
Is like, I was like, okay, was Jonathan Bailey just like too busy filming Wicked for like so long, and like he just like didn't have enough time? I was like, this feels like an excuse. It feels like we're just trying to give them a reason to go away just so we don't have to show them because somebody's busy. Like, I don't know. It just felt very
Maybe I feel like his
purposeful.
Wicked. I don't know. I mean,
I don't know.
I don't think he's gonna have that many parts in Wicked.
Yeah, I
It's
just didn't know how big
Fiyero,
his role
right?
was.
Yeah.
I knew it
Yeah,
took
that role is kind of small.
so.
But
And he was free to go for the promenade, for the Bridgerton promenade when it opened.
oh,
yeah.
that's true.
I think
Yeah,
he's quite devoted, I think I would say, to Bridgerton. Yeah.
Well, and I just don't understand because what I thought they were going to do is I thought, and I said this in the other review, but I thought that they were going to have basically him play Daphne's role in the book. Daphne
Yeah. Yeah.
is a much bigger character. I mean, obviously she's not a character at all, but she's like a big character. She's the one that throws the ball. She's the one that Colin goes to and asks for advice about getting married, and so there's like it's just a lot that he could. Anthony, I thought, okay, Anthony's gonna play the Daphne role. He's the Viscount. Why not have him throw the ball? Why not have him? But they literally just gave them a bunch of swoony scenes of them like making a baby. That's all they had to do.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel like the problem now is that after these characters have completed their romantic arc, I feel like the show doesn't know what to do with them
it's a
after
classic
they're done,
rom-com debacle.
you know.
Yeah.
That's why rom-com
Yeah.
sequels
Yeah. Yeah, so I'm not complaining about the two scenes that we did get of the two of them, getting all hot and heavy. But I have to say that every single episode that came on, I was just like, "Where's Kate and Anthony? Where's Kate and Anthony?"
Yeah.
And my brother got so sick of me. He's like, "Just stop! They're not gonna be, they've gone off for their second honeymoon or whatever. They're not coming back for the duration." So I was just like, okay, I felt so disappointed. I think, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I had tweeted when they first started like releasing stuff. I'm like, would you please stop releasing Kate and Anthony stuff because I literally feel like it's going to be everything we're going to see, and it basically was. There's like one scene that hadn't released a still or like a clip of, and I'm like, yep, this is exactly what I was worried about. I'd rather just you not showed us anything, so then I could have just not known what I was going to see. I feel like I had already seen like basically the 3 scenes, and so it's like,
well. Let's dive into episode 1. Let's talk about it. And so episode 1 is called Out of the Shadows. And this is the little summary is the debutantes enter the marriage mart as Francesca navigates her first season out. A well-traveled bachelor returns and Penelope unveils a new look. So how did we feel about Francesca? Natasha, I'm curious for your thoughts. What do you think? Of course, they had a new actress. I mean, the other actress was in there for like 30 seconds. She's barely in the show. So this was kind of our introduction to her this season. I don't know. How did you feel about Francesca this season?
Okay, I understand where they were going with the character because I think you don't always want a Lizzie Bennet kind of character, the vivacious female romantic kind of lead. I understand that they're trying to go with a kind of different characterization. She's quiet, she likes her alone time, and we can understand that because Bridgerton household is like always noisy, right? And she's got so many siblings. So I can kind of understand that. But it feels very different, I think, from the Francesca that I read in the book. I mean, it's been a while, but she's younger here as well, so I can't really say. But I don't know how well it translates to screen and TV. Like it's not very interesting.
Well, I just think it was a really hard thing that they had because they have to match her with John Sterling. But if you've read the books, he's not Endgame. But you don't want her to be with somebody like Mean, but you don't want it to be like, you don't want us as viewers to get super attached to this relationship because then we'll all be mad, with what. And so I think that's what they were trying to do. They were trying to make it like as transactional as possible while still like making it somewhat sad. I feel like it was an incredibly difficult thing and I was okay with it, but like I think it was only because I knew that backstory. Otherwise, I would have been like, this is kind of boring. I don't know.
Yeah.
What do you think?
I'll give outside perspective. So just so everyone knows, Rachel and Natasha have both read the books, all the books, and I have not read the books. So we probably have different perspectives. So you guys know like what's going to happen, and I actually know what's going to happen because of Twitter. But I don't, I have an outside perspective because I don't know her character from the book or anything. I've only seen the TV show. So from the TV show, when I was watching it, I was just so surprised, like how they were portraying her. I'm like, because for me, as someone who doesn't know exactly what's going to happen or how many years or what's going to be all this, I'm just like, me watching this, like if you tell me, oh, Francesca's season, which I don't think it will be, is next season, I'm like, that's going to be really boring. Just because the way they portrayed her is so boring, I'm just like, it just made me, if they were like, oh, next season 4 is her season, I'd be like, well, that's going to be really boring because she's pretty quiet and boring.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah,
I get, because like I have a different perspective because I don't know the material, but
I felt that even as somebody who knows, I was like, I understand why they did that.
Yeah, see, for me, it was just
I get it, but then I'm just like, because if you make this like an incredible love story, then like you're not going to be as invested in her second marriage.
Yeah,
like it's going to be all the harder, and everyone's going to compare. I don't know. It's just tricky.
They just need to like whenever they do her season, they just need to show in the promo something about this person makes her blossom and like he's so quiet and
I think so.
He's so reserved.
But I don't know.
Like it would be so boring. So they would just have to really make Michael really bring out some kind of different persona from her that she didn't even know was in her, or that was just really different than what we're seeing right now.
Well, and even last season we had Edwina, who was kind of a little bit more shy and a little more, but she wasn't like, she was still, I think, a stronger personality than Francesca had.
I would say. Yeah.
Ho, ho, ho. We'd like to take a second and thank our sponsor for this episode of the podcast. It's the Hallmarkies Patreon.
Do you love Hallmarkies podcasts, especially at Christmas?
Do you enjoy the holiday previews, recaps, interviews, and bonus episodes?
If the answer is yes, please consider supporting the Hallmarkies Patreon. We need your help to do what we do both during the Christmas season and all year round.
But not only do you help a podcast led by strong, independent women by becoming a Patreon, you get to become a part of the Hallmarkies family.
Starting at only $2 a month as a patron, you will have access to our Facebook Patreon group where we talk about the movies, shows, and more all year.
We also have many monthly patron watch-alongs with guests like Lacey Chabert, Natalie Hall, Paul Campbell, Mary Lou Henner, and more, giving their behind-the-scenes details of their films.
As a patron, you also have the chance to provide input into the podcast and even join us at different tiers.
So this Christmas season, spread some cheer to the Hallmarkies Patreon and become a member today. You won't regret it.
Go to patreon.com/Hallmarkies to learn more.
That's patreon.com/Hallmarkies.
You do get that one line from the Queen about Edwina made a good match abroad.
Yeah.
I was like, where is she? Right. And like all of us were wondering like, where's Edwina? And
some people were saying on Twitter that she must have ran off with that prince. Look, sure. Go for it.
Good for her. Good for her. Yeah. But Rachel, I don't know, like, do you feel that Francesca was like this reserved in the books? I don't remember her being so like, withdrawn and introverted and
I just think the reason why she wasn't. I mean, she was like hesitant because she felt guilty about starting a relationship with Michael. But like the thing is that I just understand as a writer, like I can understand the writer's room being like, how do we have her have this relationship with John that isn't shown in the books at all? So there's no guidance at all. John is not in the book. And I mean, he's mentioned, but he's not actually a character with lines. So how do we make this so that it's not something that everybody's going to be angry and devastated? And so I think that's why they were like, okay, we have to make this kind of like quiet, subtle. But the thing that's ironic is that now I've seen all over Twitter, people loving it. People are like, I'm like,
Yeah,
oh,
people were like,
Yeah, that's what.
love like the
Yeah.
silent bonding and like
yeah.
or mooning over it. And I'm like, okay, I wasn't really interested.
Yeah,
I was
yeah.
glad he was a black man. That was pretty much it.
I saw so many like screenshots of them just looking at each other and saying, "Oh, the amount of chemistry, these
Yeah.
two have, just being in silence." And I'm just like, okay.
You're like,
I'm like,
your
oh
world is
no,
about to be dynamite.
book 5.
Yeah, I was like, okay.
I'm
It
like,
felt too insta love for me also.
it
I
was,
don't know.
yeah. That's why it
Yeah.
had to feel like a little bit transactional, like that, and that's why I think Violet's like a little bit concerned about it. That is just
Yeah.
about the relationship, but yeah, it's interesting. I mean, so let's talk about Colin. He comes back. He's like a pirate, basically. Back from his travels.
He's dressing this. I don't know what to think.
Everybody's
Lots
super
of brown.
impressed. Everybody's swooning. His brothers are like, from what foreign son did you get so sturdy? And, and he says, that he's all winking at the other women, and he's definitely like playing up the whole rake
Oh
card. Yeah, which I love.
And
That
I
was
was
really
not
funny.
But it made me laugh. It felt too like corny. I don't know. When he winked, like, it was the exaggerated wink, right? And I think I laughed. Like I don't think I should be laughing.
That was how I felt, Natasha. I just felt like, are we supposed to feel this is so disingenuous? Because I feel like laughing. Like, is that supposed to be a feeling? Because like I want to laugh because I feel like this is so ridiculous. But I think it was not really him, so I think we kind of were supposed to feel like that, I guess.
Yeah.
Well, and
I definitely felt that.
He even says like charm can be taught, later on. And so, yeah, he definitely thinks he's like figured it out. And he's getting lots of positive reinforcement from the town, right? It's interesting. So at the beginning of this episode, they have Penelope in one of her regular dresses from the early seasons. And we talked about this in our preview, Natasha, that these were designed, I thought, very strange that they kind of, the Empire waist was too high. So it cut off her bust, and it just was really unflattering. And I could never figure out, what were they doing? Why were they doing that because a lot of times when you have plus size actresses in shows and on movies, the costume designers clearly do not know how to dress them, and they look bad. And so, but I was like, they have such talented costume designers. That can't be an accident. And so to me, it was really interesting that they started her in one of those dresses. It was a bright, flowery dress. It was too high. The bust was too high. And he sees her. Her hair was also kind of the way she would in those early seasons. The way she did her hair was a little bit more juvenile.
All those curls on the head,
yeah, it looked a little more juvenile,
tighter curls.
Yeah, and so then because I think they wanted this blow up then to really blow up at this ball, Lady Danbury's ball. And then in the book, Rachel. What's that?
When you said they wanted her glow up to blow up. Well
done.
Good job.
Thank you. And in the book, it's Daphne's ball. It's not Lady Danbury's ball. So that's what they did. But she has like a catching fire moment where she's got the cape and she's got the dress, and it's really good.
It looks good, yeah.
It really did.
They really did. They really packed the punch with the glow up. It was good.
And I definitely relate to Penelope because I'm like the worst flirt in the entire world. Like, I am terrible. You think because I like interview people and stuff, like I would be a little bit better? No, I am not good at that kind of awkward conversation.
I'm definitely a wallflower. I'm an introvert. I don't like talking to people that I don't know. So like, especially like an event with a whole bunch of people, I'm just like, find a corner and usually just stand by myself or stand to like the one person I know and talk to them for 2 hours. I don't.
Yeah.
Just go,
I usually have like a few kind of topics that I can talk about. That is one thing, being a movie fan, you can almost always talk about movies.
That's true.
whatever's, just been out, or, what's your favorite Disney movie? Almost everyone has one. And then you can talk about it. But it's not my strength. So I understood that with her. And then we have Eloise. It was a cute little moment when she talks about reading Emma.
Mm-hmm.
That was
Yeah.
fun. I like that.
That was heartwarming. That was heartwarming.
Mm-hmm. And then of course she's not talking to Penelope. She's angry. What did you think, Natasha, about Eloise in what we got so far?
I think it's once again they don't know what to do with the character, I feel. So now she's just they've given her, I think, a new friendship with Cressida. And then she's once again, I think, still talking about very similar things. But she's hiding it a lot more. I think she's masking it a bit better. She's, I think, giving things more of an opportunity. She used to be, I think, very cynical about people, about society. And I think, her friendship with Cressida shows that, she's a bit more willing, I think, to open up and give people opportunities that she wasn't before. And maybe, splitting from Penelope for a bit helped her to do that. I don't know. But I feel like generally she's kind of wandering and meandering. She doesn't have much of, I think, a purpose in the season besides the conflict with Penelope and how it interacts with Colin.
Yeah, it's true. They kind of, because she had like started to become kind of interested in like socialism and like some other like political things like a little bit last season, and they just dropped that.
They totally, it really made her thing with Penelope like her only real,
like and Cressida,
we're talking about, or doing, not doing.
Yeah, and Cressida, she's the worst. She's terrible. She spills on Pen's dress. She tears her dress. I mean, I kind of wonder if they are going to make Cressida the somehow involved with Sophie. Basically, I couldn't be like the wicked stepmother, but I mean, although her father is trying to marry her off to, some old guy. So, but because in Sophie's book, it's basically Cinderella is the story.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I'm just like, with the way that she's acting, doesn't she seem very like wicked stepmother?
I don't know. I think they do try to give her some nuance, I guess, to her character, like the layers, the fact that she's able to have a friendship, I think, with Eloise does show something more than what we've seen in the past.
But it's a very manipulative friendship, though. I don't feel like it's very like, it's like a true friendship. You think?
I do think that sometimes mean girls, put up walls or put up this kind of behavior because they are sometimes very deeply insecure. And I think her home life isn't great, right? Her father isn't great. Her parents are quite controlling of her. So, I think she's just, I don't know, competitive. You talk about it, right? They say how, when the women come out in society, they become so competitive, and against each other instead of for each other, and then she said she's kind of gotten into that kind of headset as well, right? So I think, she and Pen definitely not great, but I do like her friendship with Eloise. Yeah, but I don't know how I feel about her as a character. I'm not sure yet. It feels like she's gonna marry Dabbling for some reason.
Yeah, she definitely wants to marry Dabbling.
Yeah. I mean, he's not bad. He's decent.
What do you think of Cressida, Anne?
I can't stand her. She's exactly.
I think she's terrible.
Just like, gosh, she's so horrible.
Yeah. I feel like she's gonna end up with Sophie somehow. But so then we did get a really nice scene with Francesca talking to Penelope. I thought this was a nice moment. He says that that neither of us likes attracting notice, and he says, "I'm different from my siblings as well. It's difficult to come off the wall when you're always on it."
Yeah.
And that's when Cressida comes and spills and tears her dress and everything. And but that was a nice moment for Francesca. And then it was a nice moment for Francesca and Penelope. And then so Penelope, after she gets her dress torn, she goes outside. She's very upset. And this is when we get this scene that was, all over the internet for like a year. Felt like something wrong between us, Pen. If you make me come out and say it, I miss you. You miss me. You miss me, but you would never quote me. Do we need to go somewhere else? Because I embarrass you. It just never occurred to me that you of all people could be so cruel. That was good.
Yeah.
I mean, she's right. I mean,
she's like, I'm not going to be friend zoned.
I overheard you. Like, there's nothing you can say.
Yeah. I heard you at my mama's party. I've only watched that clip like 5 million times.
I know, God.
And you never caught Penelope Featherington. So he's very upset, of course, by this, and then we do have a conversation between Francesca and Lady Violet. She says, "I'm not sure I need to feel butterflies." So that's what I'm saying. They're trying to make it like a little more transactional, like not this like great passionate love. And so the fact that it is kind of ironic that people are like, it was so great, I loved it so much.
I know, I feel really bad. I'm glad I like know what's gonna happen, so I'm like, not invested. But I mean, I just think it's not interesting. So those people, maybe it's because I know, but
right. So then we have the scene with Kate and Anthony where they're going to extend their honeymoon, and again, that's their only plot. Their only plot this season is, are they going to have a baby or not? That's it.
And Anthony cinematically throwing papers off the table.
Yeah.
I was like, whoa, that's a cinematic throw.
Well, it did kind of remind me of that scene in his book where there's the tea and everything, which is a fun scene.
And
it's like, I'm going to take you right here. Yes. And so then we get this scene the next day where I think we all agree that the maid, Ray is her name, I believe, is like the hero of this season. She's making everything happen between Colin and Penelope, including this scene. She's like, somebody wants to talk with you. And so I wrote in my note, Ray the maid is the greatest.
She was definitely trying to
help. She's always
just
giving those knowing looks.
Yeah, Colin's all like, I bribed her to give us a moment alone. And then so he apologizes. I'm not the man I was last season. I'm proud to call you my very good friend. And there's nothing more I want than to earn back the favor of the one person who has made me feel truly appreciated. And I thought that Luke was so swoon-worthy as Colin. I bought everything that he was selling. I really did. I think it was great. And I think
they gave him a glow up too.
Yeah.
And I thought he played the role well. But they also did give him, he looked the best this season than he has.
Oh yeah. Yeah. The 2 years were good for him. He worked hard. Yeah. And then he wants to shake her hand. You want to shake my hand? That wasn't done back then.
I know, it's any touching is like a big deal.
No skin contact.
Any contact is like,
friends,
unheard of.
And then we get at the very end, Colin saying, "I will never forgive Lady Whistledown."
When he said that, man. I said, so that's the conflict we got coming. Great.
Yes.
How dare you not tell me? How dare you? Blah, blah, blah. I can just see it already.
Yeah. I know. I think that we're going to get the
a big meltdown.
You lied to me. How dare you lie to me?
Yeah.
But hopefully they're smart.
Which I hate that.
I do too. Hopefully they're smart and it'll last for about 30 seconds because he's so smitten. But we'll see, I guess. But so then episode 2 is called How Bright the Moon. Penelope begins her private lessons in charming suitors, but the arrangement quickly grows complicated. A dazzling debutante seizes the queen's attention. So This episode, this is where we get the line from the Queen about Edwina at the very beginning. She's made a splendid match abroad.
I'm glad to hear she was doing well. She deserves to
Yeah.
somebody.
Yeah,
And
after the turmoil last season. Yeah.
And this one we start to get the whole thing with the Mondricks. They have inherited this title and this property, and that's a problem because he runs the gentleman's club, and you cannot have an acting profession if you are in the town. And we saw that. I mean, of course, Downton Abbey would be 100 years later. So Downton Abbey was like the end of all of this. It was all just by the time World War II is over, then it's basically all gone. This whole sort of system. So that last stretch from like 1900 to like till like the 30s, post World War I, and that was kind of the end of this whole system. But still, even then, when Matthew Crowley becomes inherits the title, because one of the family members dies in the Titanic, so that's why he ends up earning the title, and it's a big scandal because he's a lawyer, and you cannot have a job.
That's crazy.
and one of the best lines that Lady Violet has in Downton Abbey is when she says, "What's a weekend?" The whole idea of a weekend is like, what is that concept of a weekend? Because they don't work. So why would you know what a weekend is if you don't work?
Yeah, exactly. My mom, she like never knows what day it is because she doesn't work. I'm like, you just live some glamorous life. You don't even know what day it is, that it's a holiday.
Aunt's mom is a lady of leisure.
Oh yeah,
But anyway, so that's the Mondricks, and it was I just could care less about them. I don't understand.
I just really felt like if you guys took this out, maybe it would be a little less stuffed, and that could help.
Like anything would be better. I would have rather have had more scenes with Gregory and Hyacinth, who I love, than have Mondrick scenes. Like anything.
They're so cute. Yeah, they're so cute.
Yeah, they are.
I don't know. I just feel like the conflict is just so contrived. I mean, Mondrick doesn't have to like give up the club completely. He can just be like a silent owner or whatever. I just hire someone else to run it, right? You can still keep, I think, the club, what you're doing. I don't know. I mean, maybe because you work your entire life and then suddenly, you don't have to work, and maybe that's a struggle. But I think it's not a very relatable struggle for us to watch happen, and then, and her struggle is, do I wear Lady Ken's ugly clothes? And I'm like, okay.
And do we share a room together?
Oh God, yeah. I was like,
share room. It's just like, what's the big deal?
I'm sure that the maids are not going to be like spying on you and like, where's Pepper? You didn't share a room. You shared a room yesterday or whatever. So it didn't. I understand the intention, but I just feel like it's not very interesting to watch and for us to care about. Like, I think we need to kind of relate a little bit to the struggle, right, of what they're going through, right? Well,
and just so much of Bridgerton is about escapism, and like it's just not a very like escapism plot. It's not interesting. And so then we have the beginnings of the lessons, the wave your fan and your lashes, and that's all it takes. That's what he says. If only, Colin. If only that's all it took.
Oh gosh, yeah. That was rough. I was like, oh gosh, yeah. If I was a turtle, I would hide my head in my shell.
I mean, you both are married, so you can speak to all of this more than me. That's for sure. I have no idea.
I'm definitely not a flirt. So I don't...
Yeah,
I shall keep silent on that.
But there's been a lot of talk on Twitter about the fact they show Colin at this brothel basically twice in this episode and then in episode 3. And the whole reason, obviously, they're doing that so that they're obviously trying to show that he's like a bit of a rake, but like it's supposed to be so in the next time you see him, he's like not interested at all because he's kissed
Yeah.
Penelope.
I was like,
and-
because I was like, why are they showing?
Yeah.
I don't want to see this. And then I was like, okay, I get it.
yeah, and that's why it's not to be like, I don't know. That's the only reason. But a lot of people felt like it seemed like, at least on Twitter, a lot of people felt like that made him look that was a push too far for.
I think because it's two women. I don't know. It's always a threesome, I guess, for Colin.
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah, it felt
that was too much.
yeah, I don't know. It just
Bridgerton fans are such prudes. Who knew?
No, I mean, I understand the intention of it. I think it was just the fact that he was behaving in I think once again in that exaggerated, overly charming kind of way that made it feel like a bit like, yeah. I mean, it's like, he's hot, but I can't really enjoy the scene because it feels like a bit like, why is he seen here? Despite, I guess, I understand the intention. I don't know. I feel it could have been done through his writing or something.
Yeah,
I mean, they
something
kind of tease it a little bit. Yeah, so I don't know.
Yeah.
Got it a different way.
Well, so they have the first lesson, and he's like, "You don't have to be embarrassed. You know me." And she's like, "That's exactly why I feel even more embarrassed. I know you."
Exactly.
And we get this great scene that we'd gotten a clip of that she says, "Pretend that I'm a suitor," and she says, "Your eyes have the most remarkable shade of blue, especially when you are kind." And then they both drink their lemonade. Lemonade came in very handy in this season. A lot of lemonade.
Yeah.
If they have Bridgerton lemonade, we'll know why.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, well, not so much for Lord Samdani. The lemonade didn't help him.
And so she finds his journal. She reads it, and he's writing about Paris. And then he breaks the glass, and she treats his cut. And all the staring. I mean, there's nobody that can do staring better than the British. The meaningful staring. And I love it. It was so good.
Yeah.
So good. And so Eloise says, "I don't need Penelope at the house. She's not seeking a husband in you." Which was, I thought, a good moment. And then Benedict, he also says, "All the rules follow the marriage mart. Once you've found your match, you are free," which is another reason why the Mondrick storyline is stupid. They're married. Like, why do they care what anybody thinks? They've got it's not like it's going to be taken away if they break the rules. Who cares?
Yeah.
And so, and Benedict, I just did not care about him at all. They just did nothing interesting with him. And it's like, are they going to reveal Sophie in the last part? Because I just do not care about this Lady Tilney at all, even a little bit.
Oh gosh, yeah, I don't care about her either.
No. And so it's just not interesting, because you just know it's not going to go anywhere. Like, it's for sure she's not. Even if they decide to do something else with Sophie and make it some other story, it's not Lady Tilney. It's not Endgame. It's obvious.
Yeah.
So it's just
maybe I feel like they're trying to do maybe something similar to what they did with Anthony and
with
that
the
whole
opera singer
thing, so it's like once again to build contrast, right? But I feel like it's just done. Like, can they do like something a bit different for Benedict? I don't know. Like, it just feels like an unnecessary romance. Like, he was talking so much about purpose, right? When Anthony was away on his honeymoon, and he said, "Oh, I was managing the estate. I felt like a purpose, and now you're back. I don't know what my purpose is." And I felt like, they could have given him a more meaningful arc besides like a random romance.
So he could have been, showing his purpose, because he went away again to go make an heir.
I mean, and I mean, I would think that Lady Violet would need more help than just Anthony to run the state. Because the lords and that was their main job at this time, was to run. They had basically like tenants that they were kind of responsible for. That's why in Emma, Mr. Knightley, that's why he knows Martin. His name is Martin.
No,
Um,
I was really far from the John.
Robert Martin is his name. Robert Martin. What's wrong with me? Anyway, so Robert Martin is a tenant of Mr. Knightley and Emma. That's why they know each other. That's why he comes and asks for advice. And he's like a farmer who's a tenant on the land of Mr. Knightley. So that's what these people did back then. That was their job, basically. And so I'm sure that Lady Violet could use some help managing the estate, I would think. But nevertheless, they're not interested in those kind of questions. They're just interested in him having this super boring relationship with this woman. That's it. Why do we care?
Yeah.
Anyway, we also have, what do we think of the comic relief? I've heard some mixed reviews with Penelope's sisters. Some people love them. Some people think that was hilarious. Other people, not so much. They evidently don't know about sex, even though they're both married.
I know. I'm like, what is with these people? They just like didn't want their daughters to have sex before they were married. So they're just like, we just won't tell them about it.
Yeah.
It's like same with Daphne. It's like she had no idea, but they're both married. I'm like, how do you not know?
Did you think it was funny, married? Natasha? Did you like that or no?
No, I didn't like it. I found it too extended. Like it was just too much.
Yeah.
Like I don't need like every single like reporting of like my chest is hurting, I might be pregnant, or I'm vomiting, I might be pregnant. Like dude, like come on, I didn't need to like.
They definitely could have cut their scene.
Yeah, like Lady Paddington actually like gets quite graphic, right? She's like, oh, you know, when he penetrates, and then they're like, what? And I'm like, girls.
Oh,
so Whistledown has the big reveal about what's going on between Colin and Penelope, and so then Colin comes and he bribes Ray. Like I said, Ray's the hero. She's the hero, and this is when Penelope says, "A sad, stupid girl who believed she had a chance at love. You mustn't say such things." This scene I thought was perfect. I wouldn't change a thing. It was absolutely perfect. And she says, "Would you kiss me?" And Penelope. And she says, "I do not wish to die without having been kissed."
I thought the scene was very good.
It was perfect. It really was. Please, Colin. And it's great in the book. And I thought they knocked it out of the park. And I thought the kiss was perfect. I love the way. Good. Yeah, they went in and then went in again. That was great. It was really good.
And she just like ran away, and he just looks like his eyes opened. Like my mom always says that the first time I had chocolate, she didn't let me have it for a long time until I was like 6 years old. And I was in my uncle's office, and he had it on his desk, and I ate it. And she says, when I ate it, my eyes were just like, what have I just discovered? And his eyes were like, what have I just discovered right now?
That's really funny.
Was there because he was just like, why do I feel like this right now? And you could see it all over his face.
Anne had a transcendent experience.
I did. I'm a chocoholic.
Yeah.
I love it. It's amazing. It changes my body every time I eat it.
I'd like to take a second to thank our sponsor for this episode of the podcast. It's the new book from Harpeth Road Publishing and best-selling author Nancy Nagel, The Law of Attraction. Whitney Winters and her sister-in-law Karina are thrust into the limelight when it's the national news that a number of their former clients have fallen in love after their respective divorces. To keep their jobs, Whitney and Karina must juggle their newfound fame and their clients' misadventures in love while attempting to preserve the law firm's reputation. But their efforts aren't without distractions. Whitney begins to fall for charming artist Matthew McMahon, her complete opposite. Meanwhile, Karina wonders if all the time she's putting into her career is shortchanging her marriage. Will the sisters-in-law get more than they can handle, especially when happily ever afters aren't really in their job descriptions? A swoony romantic jaunt that's as feel-good as your mama's apple pie. If you enjoyed the TV movies based on Nancy's books and are searching for more heartwarming romance, look no further. You can pick up The Law of Attraction today wherever you purchase your books, or use the affiliate link below, or go to harpethroad.com. That's harpethroad.com. subplots.com.
Well, so then we have episode 3, Forces of Nature, and it's Penelope catches the eye of a nature-loving Lord Debling to the dismay of other admirers. A near catastrophe on a windy day makes a hero out of Colin. There was a lot going on in this episode. It was busy. And we have this dream sequence to start out, which is definitely one of the most memorable of the entire season for sure, even though we haven't seen it all. It was great.
Yeah.
I was so glad. I was like, who's it going to be that's dreaming? And I thought it was going to be Penelope. I didn't do anything, or I don't even know if it's but I was like, oh my gosh, it's Colin. I was like, oh, that's so much better.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's fun because I was watching it with both my brothers, right? One brother more reluctant to watch it, but he was at my house, so too bad.
Yeah.
So you were watching it, and then they were both surprised because they thought it was Penelope who was dreaming, and then when it was Colin, they were like, "Oh, it's Colin!" And then you know, it felt like there was more gravitas, I think, to that whole.
It's sexy.
So I really like that it was him. Yeah, definitely.
That was good.
And I think that Luke did such a good job with like the yearning. You really feel it, especially in these 2 episodes, 3 and 4. You're really feeling it. And it was great. I had to see you immediately. I can't sleep. I can't eat. I can barely speak. It's great. And you know that they were definitely feeding off of the 2005 Pride and Prejudice. I think in this scene, very inspirational when Darcy comes to Lizzie and you bewitched me body and soul. That whole scene with all the fog and and my entire thoughts consumed by what? By our kiss. By you.
What?
I feel the same. You occupy my every thought. So yeah, it was great. I mean, perfect. This was perfect. And then we have the let's see here. Oh, and then he tries to like hide it, and he's like, "Yeah, I had complete darkness and no dreams." And Benedict's like, "Good for you."
Yeah, I know. They're like, "Okay, what's your deal?"
That's really funny.
I really love Benedict in all the family scenes.
Yeah.
I think he's so like the actor is actually like really funny and charismatic.
Yeah.
And whenever he's engaging with his family, he brings so much, I think, to the interactions.
That's what I think his season is going to be.
More with that.
Yeah, his season is going to be so good. Yeah. But I love really Hyacinth too in this. She was so good this season. She says, I think Penelope's lucky to have you as a friend.
Yeah. I feel like Bridgerton should take notes from Anne. They should have like, Hyacinth discovering chocolate. Like Anne did or something like that. That would be so fun to watch, I think. Yeah. More of the younger ones, I say.
Could be like in Ever After when they had the chocolate for the first time, from Mexico or whatever.
I'm telling you, it's a transcendent experience.
Yeah.
Do you remember, Rachel? Do you remember when you
do
first
I remember
had
when
chocolate?
I first had chocolate?
Yeah.
No, I sadly do not.
No.
It wasn't transcendent for her.
No.
Them.
I think when I would have had something, I don't know. I haven't had very many like transcendent experiences, I guess, in my life. I can't think of anything. But let's see here. I lost my place. Okay. So then we have this whole scene between Colin and Penelope. And he says, "Oh, we can't continue the lessons." And it's like real awkward. He's like, "I apologize." "Don't apologize." "Oh, well, you apologize." And anyway, it was cute. I liked it. It was fun.
It's just awkward enough. Yeah, where you're like, man, I believe that this would be, and it would be really awkward.
Yeah, especially after he had that dream.
Yeah, especially he had that dream. It's like even more awkward for him. Yeah.
Yeah, and he says, I wish very much for your happiness, Penelope. So then we get to meet Lord Debling, and I feel like people are really enjoying Lord Debling. I was just kind of like, he didn't do much for me.
He didn't do much for me. I mean, I think he's like the actor is like, kind of attractive, but it's like other than that, like he's pretty boring. So
Yeah, I mean, like, and I didn't think they really like used him that much. Like, it was fine enough to, give some moments of jealousy, but I thought that they were going to wait longer for the carriage scene and the big things. And so I thought
too.
I was expecting. We talked about this in our preview, Tasha. I thought, oh, she's going to actually get engaged to Debling, and
Thought that, yeah.
but yeah, I mean, he was fine, but there was
Yeah.
just not too much going on with
definitely
him.
just a chess piece. Yeah.
But he's a vegetarian, so he's wild and crazy.
Oh yeah, that
I
was
don't
According
know.
to the
I found
show.
you kind of funny though. I found you kind of funny, like in his interactions with Penelope, and I think it's interesting because they kind of show that Penelope I think can have a decent political match, right? He's not gonna bring out the
Mhm.
fireworks, in her, but
Yeah.
I think the contrast, right, between I think someone that you can accept who's perfectly acceptable versus I think someone who you burn for
Well,
and
and she
yearn for.
says, yeah, I've made
Yeah,
peace with what Debling can offer.
yeah.
yeah,
But the big
yeah,
thing that, I mean, and Colin keeps bringing this up is, oh, he's going to leave because he's going to Antarctica. So he'll be gone for 3 years.
yeah,
So,
yeah. It's lonely, I think. Yeah.
no, I thought he said 3 years. It takes a year just to get there.
Oh
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It would be lonely, I think, if she would be married to him. I mean, it
Mhm.
would be a long time before the husband comes back,
my
Yeah.
and yeah,
Mm-hmm. So we also get to we get to meet Lady Danbury's brother, who I was just kind of like, eh. They're like setting up kind of as a relationship for Violet, but it was confusing
Yeah.
because he's not a good person in Queen Charlotte. And
yeah,
so like
yeah.
why do we want him to be with Lady Violet? It was a strange choice.
Yeah. I felt like I mean, we talked about this, right? That they, after Queen Charlotte, they were thinking, I think, about moving and giving Violet, I think, a second,
Mhm.
second act kind of romance or whatever. But yeah, I felt like the choice was a bit off field,
It
and
was
I
weird.
felt like their interactions were just very manufactured and not very chemistry vibing kind of thing. I don't know. Yeah,
Yeah.
so it was very weird. Yeah.
They also didn't have anything between, almost nothing between Lady Danbury and Penelope, which is in the book quite a bit.
Yeah.
Nothing.
Yeah.
And nothing.
Yeah.
So that was interesting too.
Yeah.
We get this whole thing with the hot air balloon, and Penelope's like lying that she likes grass, which I thought was kind of funny. That made me laugh.
I was just like, oh man, she's grasping at straws. Yeah.
And Devlin's like,
She's like,
I don't want to court someone exactly like myself, which is totally, I mean, that's very true.
yeah, yeah. I
Yeah.
thought that was nice to hear, I think. Yeah.
Mhm. And so then the balloon becomes untethered and Colin becomes the hero. Jumps to work. This was his get knocked into the river like with Anthony when he gets all
But
Yeah.
okay, I'm sorry, that was hotter.
Oh yeah,
For
yeah.
sure.
It was.
I was
Very
like, Colin's just pulling some rope. Just pulling some rope. Am I supposed to feel something? I don't know.
I mean, it was pretty good, but yeah, I agree. I mean, that was Wet
The stuff
Anthony.
with white shirt is, I mean, you can't beat that.
Wet
Yeah,
Anthony is
yeah.
all-time highlight reel.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Sure.
Wait, Rachel, you skipped the callback to the ice cream kind of scene. When
Oh, when she's
it?
eating the cake.
That was before, right? Before the balloon.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So, oh, you're right. You're right. And so, yeah. So she's like Penelope's like eating the cake, and yeah, he like is transfixed by her mouth.
Yes. He is like staring directly at her mouth.
She's like, "What? What are you doing?" Yeah.
Like, is there
That's good.
something on my face? Is there sugar on my
Yeah.
face?
It's a
like,
cake. And then
"Oh,
you later
forgot."
see him eating that cake and you're like, oh.
Yeah, I love a good callback scene. It's like
Yeah.
so ice cream Duke scene from
Yeah.
season one, and it feels it's
Yeah.
nice.
That's true. And also
Yeah.
because he's already tasted her. He knows what they've already kissed. He already
Rachel, oh,
knows. It's very exciting. And so yeah. And it's
did
interesting too about that kiss because it's the thing that really is like, okay, wow. It really sets him thinking about her in a whole new
yeah,
way.
It really
game changing. Yeah.
it like literally like awakened something that he didn't even realize he had, that he felt or that he could feel.
Mhm.
And so it's like he's just
He
seeing the
can't be in the
world
same room with
different way.
her. He can't see her eating cake. He can't do it. It's so
It's too
good.
much. It's too much.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I think it ties in very nicely with what she reads in his journal,
That's
right? Because
true.
he talks about how, there's all these beautiful women that he's seeing and experiencing, but something is missing. And I think
Mhm.
just Colin, right? He's always been searching, I think, for true intimacy,
Yeah.
right? And I think for the first time, it's like, here within reach, right? In this person that I've called a friend my whole life. Yeah,
Yeah.
so it's quite nice, I think. Yeah.
So this is where Benedict meets Lady Tilney, and we could care less. And then we have this dance, and Francesca meets John outside by the fire pit. We can enjoy this silence together.
Yeah.
So, there we go.
I mean, it's cute. It's cute.
It's cute.
Ish.
Yeah, it's cute-ish.
Yeah.
It was a tricky situation they had to deal with. So then we have Colin, and then it says, as long as we are honest, that in Penelope then says to Debling the truth about the grass. She hates animals and she hates being outdoors. And the probably one of the best parts of this episode, aside from the dream, was when Colin says to his mom, what do you hope Francesca finds in a match? Passion, a love that is thrilling. And then he says, don't you think that great love starts with friendship? I do. She says, I do. It's
Yeah.
rare. She says, but it's rare that both feel the same way. And that was the case with your father and I. He says, how did you know? He says, because he had the courage to ask. Well, and then he's like, but I hope Francesca, has the courage. I hope so too.
Yeah, he tried to play it off. It's like, she knows you're talking about yourself because she's staring at Penelope right now.
Yes, and she can see it. I loved that so much. And then this a great scene where he is so close to either telling her or just flat out kissing her in front of everybody. They did such a good job building up that scene. And then Debling interrupts them and for the dance. I thought that was very good.
Yeah.
It was like, oh my gosh. So jealous watching her dance with Debling. It's great.
Yeah.
We'd like to take a second and thank our sponsor for this episode of the podcast. It's the Hallmarkies merch store.
Are you looking for that perfect gift for the postable, Hardy, or Hallmarky in your life?
What about getting that t-shirt or hoodie that will help you stand out at your next holiday party?
Now is the time to check out the Hallmarkies merch store.
Full of festive designs by artists like Jessica Miller, Carrie from Hallmark Comics, and more.
You can even have more than just shirts, but totes, cell phone cases, notebooks, mugs, and more.
And it isn't just Hallmark. We have designs for Anna Green Gables, Man from Snowy River, The Nanny, and more.
Every purchase at the merch store goes to help support the podcast and allows us to make the great content you know and love.
There are frequent sales, so go to tpublic.com/stores/hallmarkies or see the link in the description.
That's tpublic.com/stores/hallmarkies.
Okay, so episode 4, Old Friends. It's when a caller arrives at her home, Penelope faces a difficult choice. For others, opportunities to build a fresh start and find a love match abound. And so this one was definitely the best of the 4. Would you agree?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Because
that
of
makes
what, where it ends.
I mean, come on.
sense. We're building to a
Like,
big fireworks conclusion here.
Yeah, it starts out with Devlin coming and giving Penelope a plant, which I thought was actually pretty thoughtful of him,
yeah,
but it was kind of funny too
yeah, yeah.
because she doesn't like flowers, so he brings her a plant.
Yeah, yeah. It's very, I think, season one Prince with
Yeah,
Daphne. I think, perfectly nice man, just not the right
yeah,
man. Yeah.
yeah. And so Lady Violet tries to talk to Colin. And what about that question you asked me yesterday? Yeah, it was just a speculative question.
Like you
Just
are
like,
two
sure,
guns.
sure.
Two guns to go.
And then John Sterling comes to visit Francesca, and they have more nice time just sitting. Very exciting.
Everyone's just staring at them. I'm like, yeah.
But then this other guy, Lord Samadani, I guess, he comes and interrupts their sitting.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, yeah.
everybody wants
The Queen's choice.
Francesca. Yeah,
She's
and
stunning. She's really pretty.
she is very pretty.
Actress, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
like
yeah.
her. And then we have this whole thing where Lord Debling asks if he can propose to Penelope, and Lady Featherington is like, "You've done so well, Penelope." So it's building up, and Colin says, "I'm tiring of the necessity to remain cavalier," which was good.
Yeah, yeah. That's good.
He goes back to the brothel, but he's not interested. He just kind of lets them do their thing. And so that was the whole purpose behind that. But there probably would have been more interesting ways to have done that. But they were trying to be spicy. It's Bridgerton. And then and we also have Lady Featherington telling Penelope that love is make believe. It's not real. Don't hold out for love. And then we have Violet to Colin saying, "You have always been one of my most sensitive children." And I've seen quite a few people on Twitter calling out when she says that you only think for yourself, of yourself. I mean, of that you never think for yourself. And that people saying, "Oh, he's like a really selfish character." And I don't know. I don't think so. Like he's just obviously really like conflicted. And I mean, that's the whole thing with friends to lovers is like, when do you take that step and risk losing the friends? Like that's the whole point of this whole trope is, do you risk losing the friendship? How do you know if the other person's going to reciprocate? Like it's scary.
Yeah, that's really
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't think he's a selfish character. I think that whole arc with Marina from, I think, is it season one, I think kind of showed you the kind of person that Colin is. I mean, he did kind of fall into infatuation, but he told her that if she had been honest with him, he would have actually done the proper thing, and he would have married her, right, to kind of save her from her situation. So I think he's always had that gallantness about him, and I think what we see here is, a lot of, I guess, toxic masculinity, that he's felt that need to kind of, perform, right? Have this machismo, be the kind of man I think that society expects, but when he's actually really quite sensitive. So I thought that, all the interactions that he has with his like male friends, I think are quite significant in that way.
Yeah. And so Lady Violet says, "I hear Penelope's getting a proposal tonight."
Yeah, she
Violet.
as Rachel saw it, but I put out a tweet because I just think that Lady what's her name? Violet is just really, I just so appreciate that she just really wants her kids to be happy and be passionate and have, love matches. And I just think it's great. She's so supportive and attentive just to them, and just is always questioning them and trying to support them and just talk to them.
Well, and so he's like, "What should I do?" And you see that scene from the trailer where the light goes off and he's like, okay, and he's like writhing against the bed and like, and so tormented. It's so good. And I thought pretty much the second half of this episode was peak Bridgerton. It was everything that you could want. I mean, even from them having the dancers at the beginning, like really set such a like sensuous tone, and like it was beautiful. And all of the, of course, all the costumes, the queen's hair with that swan in it was wild.
Yeah.
I mean, just everything was so good. All the dancing was so good. Just everything. He's not going to go at first, and that's when you see that the candle goes out, and he's like, oh, gotta go. So then he shows up, and it's great. And Devlin says that he wants to be with someone that has a full life, and so in many ways he is a good match. You can see why Mrs. Featherton, sees that as such a good match, but obviously it's not the love. And you get this great scene where Colin interrupts Devlin's dance. And he's like, you look like you have something you need to work out between the two of you. And then Cressida comes in and is like, Eros and Psyche battling it out, which is just the dance that we just seen.
Yeah.
So good. Oh, it was so good. And you're ruining everything with Devlin. So good.
Yeah.
He's going to leave you. You can't marry him. And so then we have this whole conversation between Devlin and Penn, and says that you have feelings for each other. And she says, Colin Bridgerton would never have feelings. That is not possible. I did not ask if it was possible. I asked if you'd like it to be. Oh.
Yeah.
And so then she leaves upset. She's crying. Colin sees her leaving. He like runs after her, and there's a great edit. I love Bridgerton edits, by the way. They're my favorite. And there's a great one where this person put side by side this whole sequence and the ending of When Harry Met Sally. And it was brilliant. But it's really good. And because Billy Crystal's, because Harry, he runs. He's like, as soon as you find out the person you want to be with for the rest of your life, you want it to start as soon as possible.
Immediately.
And then you have a cute scene where John Sterling gives Francesca sheet music. And and there's our carriage scene. This is it. Peak Bridgerton for sure. You cannot marry that man. And I didn't think that when I asked for your help in finding a husband that you'd be the one taking it for me. And says that he thought that you had feelings for me. An idea so preposterous. I cannot help but laugh. What if I did have feelings for you? Oh, so good. And then when he kneels down and he's like, these confounding feelings, like a total inability to stop thinking about you. Do not say things that you do not mean. It is everything I wanted to say to you for weeks. And it was just so swoon-worthy. I mean, I don't know. He totally got me.
Yeah.
This was great.
They really did a great job in the scene with the facial expressions, and the acting, and everything. It was, you felt the passion, you felt the shock, and
yeah. If this scene isn't sexy to you, then I feel like we live on different planets. Like, I don't want to say you. Like, what?
It was sexy.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. I think I've seen like a few reviews talk about I think Luke Newton's performance, right? And I think what people kind of missed out on is that I think male charisma can look very different, and you have Jonathan Bailey's style, which is overt, I think passionate, burning, and I feel like Collins is just very different, and I think they're both like equally sexy in their own individual way.
I felt like Luke looked like he always wanted to it was like watching her eat that cake. Like he was just always wanted to devour her at any moment.
Yeah.
That's what I felt.
Yeah. I think the best moment is when she puts her hand through his hair Oh,
Oh, yeah,
that's good. That's
agreed.
good. Yeah, and he's
Yeah,
like,
that was
yeah, the
good.
expression on his face was really
Oh,
good. Yeah.
it was so good. Yeah, and she says, "I want to be more than friends, so much more." Oh, so good. It was great.
And then when they were like, "Can the carriage keep going?" I was dying.
Yes. Can the
I
carriage
was
driver
dying.
not keep
Oh
going?
my God.
Well, and it's fun because in the book, she's the one that says that, but they
Mm,
switched it up, which I kind of like.
Yeah,
yeah,
That was
But
fun.
I feel like this carriage is like the slowest carriage in all of like London. I don't know. Usually there's like more bumps or things like that. This carriage was just, sedentary, very leisurely, super cool. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and she did make sure that they stopped at Bridgerton House, which is across the street from her house. So probably, I think everybody would have seen it, not just not just his family. But it was so good. It was so swoon worthy. And I was wondering if they were going to do the proposal the same way as in the book, and they totally did, which I love because I love that in the book. But are you coming with me? Your family will see me. For God's sake, Penelope Featherton, are you going to marry me or not? So good.
it was
Yeah.
definitely a good or a perfect like ending to that moment, to that
Mhm.
part one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just that whole scene.
It was so good.
Yeah.
It was everything that I wanted the carriage scene to be.
Yes, yes.
You
I think
can't, yeah.
they adapted it very well. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So there we go. That is everything from these 4 episodes.
I will ask this since now we just finished talking about these 4 episodes.
Uh-huh.
For you guys, especially as book readers, I was really surprised like how quick, things took off and happened in the first 4 episodes. Was that surprising to you guys?
You mean with Colin and Penelope?
Yeah.
Yeah, I did think that okay, maybe they're going to wait and make us wait for the carriage scene.
Yeah.
I kind of
I thought
wondered
that too.
if they would make us wait. But glad that they didn't.
I'm just really
just a little.
worried now because I feel like it went too fast, and I just feel like that means they're going to make this conflict and stretch it out, and I just really, really hope that doesn't happen. I just can't think of why else they would
the
make
lady
it so
with
quick. It just seems too strange to me that they would do that if they're not going to
Yeah.
stretch the conflict and make it, stretched out.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm a little
Yeah.
concerned
I
about,
was just so shocked how quick it was.
especially because spoiler alert, they gave critics 6 episodes, which I think is really strange. Like, why wouldn't you give critics either all of them or just 4? Kind of
Yeah,
makes no sense just to give them 6.
that is weird. Yeah.
I'm like, but I feel like that's strange. But we'll see what happens. But I was overall happy with it. I enjoyed it. It was the escapism that I wanted, even if it had its flaws. The main relationship was more than satisfying for me, to make up for the problems with the side plots and the overstuffed nature that they had, and most of the other stuff like was fun enough. It just wasn't great. Yeah. So that's how we feel. If you've gotten, this is a long episode of the podcast, so if you've gotten through this whole episode, why don't you like put in your comment, put in like hashtag Bridgerton carriage scene or something like that, and then we'll know that you got through to the whole end. Hashtag. And but let us know what you thought of these 4 episodes, what you think of Colin and Penelope, what you think of the other relationships. Maybe you really like John and Francesca. Tell us. We'd love to hear that. And make sure you check out our preview of the season that Natasha and I did, the small review that Monda and I did, and then also we have our ranking of all of the books that Natasha and I did. So we got tons of Bridgerton fun going on the pod. So be sure to check that out. And Natasha, where can people find you?
You can read my stuff on watchvouchers.com. I review film stuff, but of course I review Bridgerton as well. I've reviewed I think season 2 and I talked about season 1. You can find me on Twitter at @LitMySoul.
And
Yeah.
you have your interview with Julia Quinn, right?
Oh yes, from like long ago before like Bridgerton blew up. Yeah. It was before season 1. So it was just kind of like prepping the way. So yeah, it's my only like claim to fame, I guess.
Yeah, you're
That's
OG.
how I know, like, yeah, that's how I know Jonathan Bailey, you know. So it's Julia Quinn and then Jonathan Bailey. Yeah.
Yeah. So Anne, how can people find you?
You can find me on Instagram and Twitter at awscott21.
Great. And you can find me at Rachel's Reviews, all over social media, iTunes, YouTube, and on Rotten Tomatoes. So check that out. Also, make sure that you're following the podcast, Hallmarkies Pod, Hallmarkies Podcast, all of our social media. And if you are listening on iTunes, please leave your ratings and reviews. We really appreciate that. And if you are watching on YouTube, please give the video a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel. We appreciate that so much. We also have our Patreon group where we have a ton of fun and we have monthly watch alongs and we have this our Facebook group and other perks, weekly exclusive reviews. We had our preview that was available ad-free for patrons 2 weeks early. I think we got it. It was way early. So lots of perks for being a patron. So please check that out. And then we have our merch store, which is a lot of fun as well. And thanks so much, everybody. We'll talk to y'all later. Bye.